Hi, my name is Darren, and welcome to Not Done Yet. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about time and why time is our most valuable resource. And I chose this topic because a lot of people have been asking me about, time, how do you manage, what do you do, how do you use it, and I thought that maybe I'll dive a little bit deeper into this concept of time and why time is so important. It's something that even money can't buy. And so hopefully you stay tuned to my podcast, and I'll be touching more on some of the minor points, some of which you may or may not agree with, but essentially these points are reflections of my own experience and my own thinking. Well, this thing about time is very interesting, right? So time has got this, time is always moving forward. And one thing that I learned is that, and I think many of you can identify, is that no matter how much money you make, no matter how much resource you have, time is something that is always going to be moving in a forward motion, in a linear forward motion. It doesn't matter whether or not you have $1 million, $1 billion, or $1 or $10 or $20. You're always going to be losing time. That's essentially what happens the day we're born. We're all losing time, and time is catching up on us. And I think this is something very important for all of us to understand. When we choose to use our time, and I'm in no way saying that you should be your own entrepreneur, or you should start your own business, or you should work for people, or you shouldn't. All I'm saying is that you need to be quite smart about how you use your time, and that by giving yourself more time and by appreciating the concept of time, that you can do so many other things that you never thought you were capable of. So let me just give you an example. If you decide, and there's nothing wrong with this, if you decide that you want to work for a corporate or corporation or company, and many people do this, there are many of us who are hired, and we draw a nice paycheck, and essentially you're burning, I don't know, maybe 8-10 hours a day to do your best for the company. So let's do some simple mathematics, right? In every week we have 168 hours. That's all you get. It's 24/7. You're not going to get more, you're not going to get less, right? Simple mathematics. You take 24, multiply by 7, you get 168. And how you choose to use that time, if you're working 8 hours a day for 5 days a week, you're essentially using 40 hours. So 168 minus 40, you're left 128. Then we have to sleep, right? So when you sleep, maybe you do, on average, let's just say we follow what people say, and you sleep maybe 8 hours a day. Let's just say. So 8 times 7, that gives you 56. It keeps deducting itself. And so when you finally deduct all of that, you realize that you have some pockets of time, and a lot of us start to use a lot of the time on activities that we find meaningful to ourselves, right? We scroll through our social media, we watch a movie, we go out with our friends. All of this adds up into the 168 hours a week. And so one of the questions, and where am I coming from with this, is that I get asked this question, Darren, you're obviously, doing your own thing, and you train, you play pickleball, you play tennis, you're training for triathlons again after COVID. How do you find the time, right? And I always say you don't find the time, but you make the time. And making time doesn't require money. Making time requires you to be very, very purposeful in how you plan the usage of your time. I live my life off a Google Calendar. Everything that I do is logged into a Google Calendar. Recording this podcast is a session in my Google Calendar. And I always refer to my Google Calendar religiously, if I can use that term. And when it hits an hour, I stop. And I move on to the next task, and I move on to the next task, and I move on to the next task. And I think in that way, when we structure 168 hours, because it's a resource that basically doesn't increase itself, you're then able to better understand how your time is being used. I review this every week, I review this every quarter, I review it every 6 months, and I look at these little pockets that I have. I'm like, I realized I could do with a bit more hours of rest, maybe some downtime, some reading time, some additional training time if I'm coming closer to a competition, some additional time dedicated to work if a project's coming up. It's all about balance. Everything is about that pendulum, right? It's that pie chart of 168 hours. And so I just wanted you to take away this message, if anything, and that is that time revolves around 168 hours. Doesn't matter whether you're rich, doesn't matter whether you are not so rich, you only have 168 hours every week. 24 times 7, 168 hours. How you choose to use it then is really very dependent on how you plan. And because that quantity never increases, then it's about how we use the time. I wake up at about 5 a.m. every day, sometimes at 4:30, and I go for my runs, I go for my bike, and I'm usually gonna sit down and have my breakfast maybe by 6:30, and then sometimes I hit the office, I clear some stuff, and afternoon maybe I train again. It's all very, very precise, right? It's all by design. And how you design a consistent framework around 168 hours is then very, very critical. And this, you notice this has got nothing to do, or me saying that you should be running your own business or you shouldn't be working for people, etc., etc. All I'm saying is that plan your time. So if you're working 8 hours, 10 hours a day for a corporation, for a company, which is what many of us do, and I think a lot of you will be able to identify with that, plan your other 12 hours, 14 hours outside of these 10 hours and how you intend to use it. How many hours you need to sleep? Are you wasting too much time scrolling through your social media? I don't know. Only you know your habits best. And so that's why I always like to tell people that this concept of time is interesting, right? No amount of money will buy you more time. And here's another very interesting concept. No amount of money will accelerate time for you, nor will it slow it down. It's a consistent forward-moving process. So, second interesting question I get is, so Darren, then, if you say that money doesn't buy you time, if you say that time is an always ongoing process, how do you then view time? Doesn't time become an enemy? My way of thinking about this is that you can't change it. Whether it's your friend or whether it's your enemy, it's something that's always going to be there. What I do believe is that time has got its time, pardon the pun, it's time and space in everything. It's like energy, right? And I believe that everything in this world has a certain balance and a certain reason for being. So when I used to be, when I used to be 150 kilos, let's just use that as an example, and my doctor told me that, you might not live past your 40th birthday. Suddenly, if your lifespan, it's about 80, 85, 90 years old, suddenly your lifespan is cut by half. And that becomes a determinant of your new time. You now only have 40 years to do something. And at a point in time, I was maybe in my 30s, and so I started thinking to myself, oh my god, I only have like 8 years left to do something. And so I decided to make a change. And when I decided to make a change, obviously now, I've lived past my 40th birthday, and so that time has extended itself. So time is sometimes a little bit predestined if you believe in destiny, but it's also sometimes within our control. And if we don't treat ourselves well, we find that we actually have very, very little time left to do the things that we want, to tell the people that we love them, and to be the friends that we want to be with, and to do all these other cool things that you see other people doing. And so the concept of time, to me, is quite simple and straightforward in some ways, yet it's very complex. I said that it's an onward moving kind of motion, yet at the same time sometimes we do things that cut short that time. So it's a little bit predestined. I believe that when we are born, that we all are meant to live to a ripe old age, right? 80s, 90s, in today's world, maybe even your hundreds. And being healthy at that, we're just not dragging our feet. But everything that we do on a daily basis either lengthens or shortens that time, right? So this is about the usage of your time. If you're overly stressed, and if you stress so much about something, then you're going to find that over time your health is going to suffer. If you eat badly, if you overindulge in food like alcohol, or stuff that's not good for you, you're actually shortening that time. So 168 hours, but how many of these 168 hour weeks are you going to have left? So time in a way, when we're born and when we're cleansed, right? When we're born clean. We all have this predetermined timeline. And as we engage in our daily activities, as we engage in our life activities, then this timeline starts to lengthen and shorten. And so I think that's what time means to me. So time cannot be controlled as a quantity, but time can be used to your advantage if you pick the right habits and if you do things that automatically allow you to provide some extensions. Like I said, I always believe everyone's supposed to live to a ripe old age. But if you choose to eat badly, to live badly, if you choose to not fully utilize your time, you're going to find that the quality is bad, and you're going to find one day you're going to wake up with regret. That's number 2. And number 3, you're going to find that the timeline has generally gotten shorter for you as well. Yeah, so that's how I generally like to view time, if you ask me, from my personal opinion. So, when I was grossly overweight, obese, clinically, medically obese, one of the things that I came to a realization was that it's very easy to find an excuse that you're busy, right? Oh, I'm busy, I'm doing this, so I don't have time, I'm doing this, I don't have time, I don't have time to spend time with family, I don't, all of that. It's really easy to find excuses. It's really easy to find excuses for doing the things that you should be doing but you're not doing. And we like to blame this thing, right? I have no time. We have a freedom of choice. And the choice that I made was that I was not going to sacrifice my health to pursue certain things. I still want to pursue them, don't get me wrong, and I still will pursue them, but I was going to do it differently. I was going to do it in a way that was sustainable, and that in a way that it would give me a longer span of time to plan and think about how I want to get there. If we don't free up time to do what we intend to do, if we don't free up time to live a better life, if you don't free up time to take care of yourself, that time's going to go away, right? That time is going to disappear from your noses. I mean, those of you who are watching this today, I mean, whether you are 16, whether you're 26, whether you're 36 or 56, if you're a 36-year-old guy, and if you find that, and if you're watching this, it probably means that you're trying to discover a better way to use your time. Question yourself, ask yourself this. In your past 36 years, what have you done that has allowed you to truly say, I've made choices on how I want to use my time, and that choice is mine? So let me give you a very good example. One day, take a day of leave if you're working, or just take a day off. Don't check your phone, don't do anything. Find the nicest scenery that you can go to. You can be observing cars, trees, wherever you are, and sit there and spend the whole day. And just stare out into how things around you are moving. Things are going to move around you, things are going to move, things are going to progress, regardless whether or not you like it. Whether you like it or not, things are going to progress. Now, the moment you realize that we are just a small part of all of these things that are progressing, you will start to realize one very important thing. When you give your time, or whether you don't give your time, things are still moving, right? It's like time, things are still moving. And you need to spend these moments yourself to understand and get a deeper realization of why it's so important to make choices of how you want to use your own time. Every second, every minute, every hour, and be precise about it. If you want to work out, work out. If you want to train, train. If you want to eat well, eat well. Hell, if you want to go out with your friends and you have a drink with them, have all the fun you want to have. But don't come back and later say, oh, I wish I made better choices with my time, because this is your choice, right? And I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying this, but if you feel that you're not happy at your job and you feel that you're wasting time, move on, right? The world's going to move on anyway. And we all make choices. We all shift from place to place, and we all make different choices. Question is whether you made the choice in the first place. Are you thinking about making the choice, or have you actually made the choice? And this is in no disrespect to the people who enjoy working or in corporate jobs. No disrespect to you. But there are quite a few of them out there, and you can actually leave a comment if you think that you agree with me, that maybe you feel that this isn't a place that you belong. Then spend the time wisely and do something else, right? Look, guys, you're only going to live once. And I know a lot of people say, oh, Darren, you're too old to have this, YOLO, you only live once kind of mentality. The truth is that that's what it is, right? You are really only going to have that one chance in life. And this time is going to move by, it's going to fly by before you know it. Are you going to wake up when you're 50, when you're 60, when you're 70 and say, damn it, I wish I tried that when I had the opportunity? Or are you going to say, you know what? At the age of 70, I've done all these cool things. I don't have any more regrets. Yeah, you might not make the most money. You might not be the most successful, however you define success. but you've experienced, and I think that experience in life is really, really important. So time is it's freedom of choice. Choose, be brave, and be free. And you will realize when you've made that choice and you're using time the way you want it to, magical things will happen. I can't guarantee you results, but I will tell you that when you make these choices, you will be in a much happier place. And trust me, success always starts from a happier place. So let me ask all of you now. How many of you have actually said that you always feel that you have no time and you feel that you're always being squeezed, right? You're doing something, deadlines are tight, or people are always chasing you for something. I think a very personal experience of mine was in a previous place that I used to work at, where everything was about deadlines, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it is about deadlines, right? Every corporation, every company, every organization needs to chase deadlines because you're trying to accomplish something. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people perform well under pressure, some people don't like the pressure, some people just don't like to have that kind of pressure put on them. Now, pressure is one thing that I'll touch on in another podcast, but today we're talking about time. And so if you find yourself constantly pressed, constantly flattened, constantly pressured, and you find that time is slipping out of your control, what I just spoke about in the previous 3 subtopics in this podcast should give you a very good example of how you need to regain control of that. Unfortunately, sometimes it does require you to change your workplace. It does require you to find something else. I always value 2 things: time, happiness, right? And if these 2 things don't come hand in hand, you're never going to be able to progress. You're never going to be able to grow. Some people say, but under intense pressure, growth happens. Yes, but you must be happy with that pressure. You must be happy with how your time is being used. And that time must be used by you. If you're not happy with that time and how it's being used, then maybe it's not the way it's supposed to be used. So my corporate example, my organizational example, was where we were working 14, 15-hour days. And yet at the same time, people kept saying, oh, you got to change this, you got to change that. And sometimes all of that is being done because other people don't want to use their time, and they then leverage that, they then put that on you to use your time to make certain changes. There's nothing wrong with that, but you need to decide whether that's what you want. Some people like it, some people see it as a rite of passage to get to somewhere higher, some people don't. And if you're one of those that don't, then you need to gain control of that time again. And so, being short of time, and maybe I'll elaborate on this a little bit, or being squeezed on time, still doesn't give you an excuse to say that you don't want to do certain things, right? You still need to have the rigor and the discipline to use whatever pockets of time you have left to deal with other parts of stress, pressure, being happy. You never work 24 hours a day, guys. We never work 8 hours, we never work 12 hours a day. That's just a quantity. We know, and if you reflect, you'll be able to tell yourself how many hours you actually work a day. What are you doing with everything else? What are you doing with everything else that you have on the clock within a 24-hour time frame that you can be doing to improve yourself, to grow, to learn something new, to train, to eat well, to drink well? I don't know. And it's all about being deliberate. Somewhere along the line, a lot of us have forgotten what it's like to be deliberate with our action. And it's one thing to have people to tell you what to do. It's another thing to be deliberate about it. Be proactive about it. What do you want to do? If you're working a stressful corporate job and you have an hour of lunch, why not take 15-20 minutes, go for a run, come back, change, and then go for your lunch. Have a quick one. Some of the best triathletes I know have very, very compact schedules, and they still train, and they still find time to train. How is that done? It's because they make choices, and because they decided that yes, there are certain confines of the system that I cannot run away from, the structures I can't break out of for whatever reason. Maybe they need the paycheck, or maybe need to bring money home, which is what everyone needs to do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what do you do with the spare pockets of time is what really makes a difference. The difference between being good and being great is about using the resources that you have. And resource is not about money. The resource that you need to use is time. How you use time truly determines the rate of your growth and how great you eventually will be. So take it from me, time is a choice, and time always moves forward. When you combine these two factors together, you realize you need to start making very deliberate choices about how you use your time. Whether it's 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, half an hour, an hour. Some of us have the leisure of having more time. You need to make deliberate choices. And if you don't make these deliberate choices, then we can't really be blaming anyone else and say, hey, I've got no time to do this. I don't quite buy that. I'm sorry. It's all about making choices. And so that's the end of my first podcast. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. Maybe I hit a raw nerve. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. But it's really what I think. And I finally decided, a brief history of why I did this. I finally decided to share whatever experience I've had, whether it's my weight loss or whether it's my own personal experience, into a series of podcasts to hopefully inspire some of you to action, and maybe even for some of you to say that, hey, this is absolute rubbish, right? And I don't need to listen to it. It doesn't matter. I'm just sharing my thoughts, and if you like it, give me a thumbs up, give me a like, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment if there's something else you want me to talk about, or simply just encourage me, discourage me in my comments. I don't know. I leave it to you. And that's really the wrap up for episode 1 of Not Done Yet. And if you wanna drop me an email, send me an email. It's in the description for this podcast, and I'll be seeing you again soon.